All right, well, welcome back, Jamie, and welcome back, Heather, for our second call that we're going to have together. On the first call, we got very clear on the vision and kind of what your goals are, Heather, for the year and for the next 3 months. So today, we're going to really hone in on some of those sales strategies and get a better understanding of your sales process, so you can actually achieve some of those goals that we talked about. So, Jamie, thanks so much again for joining us and being so gracious to do a second call with us. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me again. You
Sure.
must like me. That's why you have
I
me back,
do.
right?
I love it.
Perfect. So today what I'm going to do sort of the next step that I would normally do with my clients. Is that cool with you, Heather?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So now once you know, like, okay, I have the goal to have one client in the next 3 months. Great. Now I go and talk to people and hopefully sell them into something that they say yes to and I get money. So we're going to talk about that piece. So what we want to do is create a sales process for you. So you know exactly what you need to do every day, how many people you need to talk to that lands you a client. So ideally, and this is longer term because you're still new to this, but ideally longer term, what we're going to really want for you is to know I talk to 10 people and I get a client. And the way we do that, right, predicting the future is always fun. So the way we do that, though, is to find out what your sales ratios are, what your closing ratios are, all that fun stuff that you might have heard before. But nobody, especially self-employed people, don't really implement this stuff.
Sure.
The bigger businesses do, and this is extremely helpful for you. So that way it takes away the negativity in sales. A lot of the times when people go into sell, number one, hated selling at first. I worked for Kirby vacuum cleaners when I was 17 and thought selling was horrible because I was trying to sell people on vacuum cleaners, you know? So their sales process is just not that ethical. And so I thought all sales was that way, and therefore I thought all sales was bad. And it took me a long time of getting used to it and actually having a mentor that taught me an ethical way of selling. And that's what I want to do. I want to really hone in on some strategies that will really help you sell and make it easier for you. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So let me outline it a little bit and then we'll sort of dig deeper into it. So we know that physicians are your number one ideal client. So what we want to know, ideally long term, is how many physicians you need to talk to before you get a certain number of sales calls, before you get a certain number of clients. So let me break it down. So ideally, let's say you talk to 10 physicians. Say you're at a networking event and for some reason it's all physicians there. If you were to talk to 10 of them, you were able to go, I actually do this thing. I'm a marketing consultant. I can help people get more patients. And let's say 5 of them are like, that's great. I really need that. You can say and invite them to a sales call. Like, I can go over your strategies that you're doing now, no pressure, just a chat. So that way we can see if we can either work together or I can give you some ideas, right? And so you have 5 people that say yes to that. And then let's say out of those 5 people, you sell 1 client, right? So you talk to them, they're really interested, but only one of them can afford you, or only one of them, can do it right now. And so what you know then is I need to talk to 10 people on average to get to 1 client. Therefore, each week, let's say you wanted to do 1 new client a month. I know your goal right now is 1 client every 3 months, but let's say it was 1 client a month. You would know that you would need to talk to at least 10 people before you can get your 1 client a month. So your goal would be 10 people per month. Because when we have the goals of 1 client per month, we don't really know how to get that client. And sometimes when we work our butts off, we still won't get that client. And it's really difficult to sort of predict anything, and then you feel crappy. So let's say you did 5 of those sales calls, and you were all excited about them. And you're like, out of 5, I only got 1, and I really was hoping to get more, and you feel really crappy. But if you know statistically, out of every 5 you get 1, those other 4s are just whatever, and you get 1. So therefore all the negativity and the guilt and all that fun stuff can go away because I talked to 10 people and on average 10 people equals 1 client. So it's all about how many people you talk to instead of I didn't get that person and I really thought they were going to say yes and they didn't say yes and now what am I going to do? How am I going to hit that 1 client goal? I'm not really sure. you know? And so it's all about what actions you are taking, and we can measure that, and we can put that in our calendar. We can do those things. Saying that you want one client is intangible. Like you were saying on the last call, I'm not really sure where people come from. They just sort of come to me, which is great, but very unpredictable. Very hard to know. And so you can't really decide on what to do because you don't know what works. Right? Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And so since you're doing local clients, this is actually a little bit easier. I mean, there's a different strategy for online marketing and inbound marketing rather than outbound marketing. Okay. And do you know the difference between the two?
No.
Okay. So the difference between inbound marketing, actually, I'll tell my story in this. So I was a local business coach. I used to drive around. As I said, I'm a mom, so I would only work part-time. And when my kids were in preschool, I would drive around to prospects, right? And I had an amazing mentor that taught me this whole thing. And what I would do is I would go and get clients. So I would do the exact same thing that I'm going to recommend for you, is chat with people, see if you can get them into your sales process. As soon as you do, see if you can sell them as a client, right? That's what I did. And I had a pretty successful practice working with my mentor. It was great. The thing is that we're moms and we only have so much time. And for me, driving around felt like a big, huge waste, personally, because number one, I'm a geek and I have a degree in IT and I love computers. So it kind of and I live in Maine in the middle of nowhere. Let me also say that. So I live in a town of about 2,000 people. So even if I wanted to meet small business owners, there are probably 5 in my town, seriously, which is sad. So I would have to drive anywhere. At least you're in some place that, actually has people that you could talk to, physicians. But for me, I was like, okay, well, I have a pretty successful practice, but I have to drive 45 minutes to go talk to them, and then I have to do this, and it was just a little ridiculous.
Sure.
So that's outbound, where you're really going out and you're meeting people and you're going to get clients. Inbound, and what I have now, which is what I recommend for you in the future, not right now, but when we talked about, when your kids are in school, I have a brand online, so I have clients that come to me, right? So that's how I met Lisa, actually. She listened to my show, and she ended up coming to me. And that's a much easier sales process because I have people come to me and go, I love your show. Some people are like, I love you, you're a celebrity, which is kind of funny. I'm like, I live in a town of 2,000 people. Thank you for calling me a celebrity. But, so people come to me, they're almost already pre-sold. So number one, I don't have to do the prospecting that I used to. I have a community of amazing people that want to work with me. Okay, so longer term, much more fun, right? Much more fun to have people coming to you. But shorter term, what we need to do for you is really do outbound marketing. So you're not really known yet. We're not really going to build up too much for your online right now. That takes a lot longer. It's much easier. I love it when people are cool with doing it local at first to get that income up. Because when you do a local service, it's so much easier to sell someone in person than to sell someone not in person, right?
Well, that's what, locally, it was fun to have the client that I did in Atlanta, or it's fun to, work with companies that I've been doing freelance for in Florida, but I don't get to know them personally on a personal level. So it's like you never get past the business relationship part of it. It's always just, can you do this for me? And I do it, and okay, let's move on to the next job. It's, you don't get the opportunity to really build a rapport with them enough that they would be able to make a referral based on that they know you personally as well.
Yeah.
And like you for the, not just for your work, but for the person who you are.
Yeah. And so 2 things that will help with that is if you do go online later, that will actually generate a lot quicker. But also if you're starting to work with your clients much longer term, that'll probably help a lot too, because you can jump in not only when there's problems, but when there's not problems too. So that will probably help longer term. But you're right, because short term, the best way you can sell someone is in person, right?
Well, and in terms of media too, working with the media, it's it's helpful to know the reporters that you want to pitch to, so that you can pitch appropriately. But it also, if there's ever a crisis that comes up, I can't manage a crisis from 600 miles away, at least not effectively.
Yeah.
It's helpful if, something comes up and I'm only 5 or 10 minutes down the road, I can be there, probably kids in tow, but at least I can be there in person to handle it.
That's amazing. So like we talked about for the last time then, so we know that your ideal client is physicians. So what we want to do is figure out the sales process. So we'll figure out the sales process first, and then we'll go through and figure out the way we can do more prospecting. Like you said in the last call, which was great, I can just ask for referrals from some of the people I know. That's one great tactic to get prospects in your sales process. But let's first talk about the sales process first, and then we'll talk about the prospecting after.
Okay.
So the sales process for you, I think, is going to be very similar to what I recommend for coaches, consultants in general. And that's sort of what I mentioned before. So say the person that you're going to be getting a referral from, he gives you this great referral. He's like, Dr. White is amazing. I really think he needs more patients. His practice is newer, that sort of thing. And you're like, great. So one of the things that I would suggest that you do is to give them a call, or maybe meet them in person. See if they're going to a networking event actually, and then try and meet them in person. If you can't do that, just do a email intro between the two and say, I'd love to take you out for coffee. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything having to do with sales yet, because you don't even know if he really wants your stuff, right? So don't try and sell too soon, because you sell too soon and people are like this, which you probably know from all the other work that you've done. Yes. So we want to build the relationship first. And so we start building the relationship. Let's say he was at a mutual networking event with you, and you start chatting about things. And so one of the things that I think is really key that a lot of people don't understand is when you're a consultant, you have lots of products and services and knowledge that you could probably help them with. But it's not about telling them what you do, pretty much at all. So when you're going there, what you really want to do is ask as many questions as humanly possible. Okay, you want to start creating the rapport so they like you, because again, people only do business with people they know, like, and trust. So that's number one. But number two, start really talking to them as far as what they need. 9 times out of 10, you go to networking events, people want to talk about themselves, unfortunately. I'm an interviewer, so all I want to do is know about the other person, but that's actually what builds rapport faster, because people love to talk about themselves, right? Even when they're not asked, people love to talk. I love to talk about myself too, actually, hence all the stories I've been telling you. But it's funny, I love being interviewed. It's fun to talk about yourself. So if you're at a networking event, start asking them questions. But then once you start building the rapport, you can actually ask deeper questions. So it's not just like, oh, how's everything going? How's the practice? It's not about that at all. It's more about like, oh man, so how are you actually getting your clients right now? And if they're like, I don't really know, be like, oh, okay. Well, what are you looking for to try and fix that? Or, you know what I mean? Start trying to just ask questions, because what you're looking for are pain points. You're looking for ways that what you do can fix what they need. And you're not saying that you can do that. You're not like, oh, ding, 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 I can help you with that. But what you're doing is trying to pull out as much of that as they can. Every person pretty much has pain in some area or another in their business. And so what you want to do is see if your services line up with their pain. And all you do for that is just keep asking deeper and deeper questions.
Okay.
Right? Okay, and find out, and it's really funny, people open up like crazy. I was always surprised when my mentor used to tell me how to do this way back when. He would tell me this, and I'm like, people are just gonna tell me stuff? And then I realized, like, when you're chatting with people that you like and you know, you're really open, and it's not someone trying to sell you anything, because that's not what it's about. You're just trying to see if you're a match. And if you're not a match, it doesn't matter. You're just going to let that go and know more information. And maybe you can tell someone else that you know to help them or something like that. But it's really just creating that bonding and rapport and finding out what they need. Because you can't solve any problem unless we know what the problem is. So that's really the first thing. If they start coming up to you and start going, I know nothing about marketing. I'm a physician. Like, that's what I know. I thought I worked at a bigger practice before, and now I have my own practice, and I didn't realize how much like work there is on doing the business stuff. You can then sort of have the in of going, oh, really? It's funny, I actually do a marketing assessment. So if you don't really know what's going on in your marketing right now, I'll do a free 30-minute assessment. We can see if we're a good fit. If we're not, it's not a big deal, of course. But if you want to do that, I can set up an appointment right now. And so you're offering him something. You're not trying to sell him anything. And you sort of soften it where you're like, you don't have to buy anything specifically. I'm not going to try and sell. That's what I always say. I'm not going to try and sell you into coaching. If you don't need it, I don't want to sell it to you because you won't be happy and I won't be happy and that won't be a good relationship. So really trying to find out if it's a fit to do like a free 30-minute marketing. I mean, you can call it marketing and PR consultant if that's a little bit easier for you, but the physicians, I have a feeling, now I don't know for certain, I'd have to talk to them, that they would refer more to marketing in getting more patients, right? Or advertising.
Yeah, they don't necessarily know what PR is.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because there's a very distinct difference between marketing and PR.
There is. But
people don't know what PR is. They can identify with marketing. The unfortunate part is that marketing deals a lot more with advertising and the paid for stuff.
Yep.
They don't. What I'm finding, especially with physicians, is that there's very little known about media relations. That it's a great way to showcase the studies and the research that they're involved in, the clinical trials, the new procedures that they're doing at a greater length than an ad will do in a paper. The drawback is that obviously you're not guaranteed the placement.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of.
So have you ever heard the sell them what they want, give them what they need? Have you ever heard that before? So it's kind of the same thing, right? So they're like, I need more patients. Help me with my marketing. And you can go, well, the funny thing is I can do your marketing for you, but I don't do paid marketing. I do more of a PR strategy. And you could maybe sort of soften it like that and say it's a PR strategy. So I'm not looking to, be in the ads because that's not really a really good, amazing doctor shouldn't need to be in ads. And that's not what I do, which I think would be really set you apart, right? You're not doing that kind of crazy stuff. What you want to do is really showcase how much they know, and you can then explain to them what they need, right? What they need, not
exactly.
what they want. It's the same thing. Like you're both going, you want more patients. That's the end goal. It's just the education isn't really there. And so that's where you'd say the education during the sales call. So when you go through the marketing strategy, I mean, you could just have a checklist or something where you're just asking them a lot of questions on what they have, and then explain to them sort of your process, right? So it is sort of a sales call where I do strategy calls or clarity calls. So all I do is pull information from people to see if I can help them, right? Okay, I know I could help them there. So for you, like if you go through and you're like, oh, you've been in so much media, I can't help you. Like you're already doing an amazing job. Then that's sort of the checklist, like that they're doing a good job. If they're not, though, you'll leave a lot of things blank, like are you doing anything in the media, do you have any relations, do you all these things.
Sure.
And they'll see what they're lacking and you go, that's what I do, so if you want me to help, I can let you know what the packages are, and if you don't, that's totally cool too. And so getting really clear on what that is would be good. The other thing that I would also mention for those sales calls that you're going to have is really preface what it is, right? So don't say, this free call, it's this free thing, and then they get in and you're trying to sell them because they might be a little turned off. But when you're starting to say it, go, we can see if we'll be a good fit. If we're not, it's okay. So they know in advance that they're going to see if it's a good fit. No obligation, whatever. And I always like to say at the beginning of calls, we'll be friends after, yes or no, doesn't matter, we're going to be friends either way. I actually have a spiel that I'll give you, my little spiel at the beginning. If you want to use it, you can.
Sure.
So when I have somebody come to me, it's a little different now because I have people coming to me instead. But either way, this is very similar to what I used to do too. I would go, okay, just so you know, I want to let you know how these calls normally go. Right, so you're setting expectations. So at the very beginning, I'm going to have a ton of questions for you, all about your business, and I'll list a couple questions. And then at the end, you're probably going to have questions for me. I'm going to save your questions for the end just because I want to get a good general idea on where your business really is. Okay. From there, we'll find out whether or not we're a good fit. And by then, I'll probably be able to let you know what I do and all that fun stuff. By the end, I'd love to know either way if it's a yes or a no. Not a big deal either way. We'll still be friends. I'm a big girl. The reason why I ask, though, is because some people don't want to hurt my feelings and they say maybe. And like, I don't want to follow up for you 5 times and you ignore me and you run around. You know, it's not about that at all. Just let me know if it's not right for your business right now. Not a big deal. And so I preface that at the beginning, so they know A, they want a yes or no, right, at the end.
Sure.
And
sure.
B, they know exactly what the whole call is going to be. Okay, so they know whether or not they're going to have to make a decision. They know a good general idea on what the call is going to be. It's also really good to get a yes or no on the call, because they like you, and if they like your stuff, they're more apt to say yes. When they wait a while, they'll go, I don't really remember what she said, and it sort of gets fuzzy in their mind, and they don't really remember the value that you provide. Therefore, it's a little easier to get the yes or no there. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes they have to talk to their husband, wife, business partner, or something.
Sure.
In that case, I'll go, well, I'll give you 24 hours to go. I understand completely. I have a husband too. I wouldn't spend a lot of money without him knowing, just in case. Even though my business is my own, we're wives. We kind of know this stuff. So I let people go, okay, in 24 hours, email me either way. Yes or no, no big deal. But try and get a time frame after that. Okay, so that's sort of the sales call. And from there, you'll know how many you sell. Now, at first, when you do these sales calls, you're probably not going to be very good at them. And that's fine. And that's normal. So your closing ratios, though you're really good at what you do and you're an expert and can probably explain it really well, the sales process makes a difference, especially if you don't have too many testimonials. Because at the end of that call, if you have a doctor where you're like, we went from this many patients to this many patients, that makes it more or less a no-brainer and easier to sell. One of the other techniques that I can give you that I use, one of the millionaires that I interviewed calls it dollarization. And so turning what they're doing or losing into numbers, whether it be patient numbers, whether it be revenue numbers, whatever the numbers are, because then you can see the value proposition really clearly. So if, for example, a doctor that you start chatting with is like, my practice is not full, I have a whole staff of people, and I could get 30 more clients, or 30 more patients. And you're like, wow, how much is each of one of those patients worth to you normally on a monthly kind of a thing? And they'll go, oh gosh, each patient is worth, $500 every single month or something like that. And you go, so 30 times 500, you're losing that much money every single month because you don't have that many patients. That's a lot of money. So investing $1,200 into my thing doesn't seem so bad at all, right? That value proposition is very clear, because they're like, I could have this much money with you and I only need to spend this much money. Now, you're not guaranteeing that they're going to do that, definitely. Like, you can't be like, yes, we're going to have that many.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're showing them where they could be. And it makes the value of what you have so much better. Okay? So, and you can even say, like, I can't guarantee you're going to get that many, but you should really be putting your marketing dollars into getting those, because every month that goes by, you're losing that much money if you don't have those, right? Because you're paying your staff, you're paying all that stuff. And so putting it into numbers just makes it easier for them to see. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And Jamie, I have a question about that too. You were saying, like, clients come to you now, so if anybody's watching and they're in Heather's position, and speaking of Heather, should, at the end of the call, I'm sure many people or many physicians are going to want to negotiate with her on her package pricing. So should she do that, or should she do what's usually recommended, or what I recommend is, if they want to go down on price, then you lose some piece of the service. There's some give and take in terms of how you change your pricing, because I know that's going to come up within that call. So and then I know that's a whole another conversation, because we're talking about pricing, but I know that's going to be part of the sales call for her and anybody who's in her position. So
now, when you're first starting, you're much more likely to tweak things a little bit, right? Because you're like, okay, like we said at the last call, I really want these ideal clients, so I'm willing to work within their budget. I don't discount anymore. Like, my price is my price no matter what. But when you're first starting, I would do exactly what Lisa suggests. So if you have a package, and of course we don't know what your packages are right now, but let's say you have a $500 a month package and it includes this, and this. Just like Lisa said, they're like, I don't have that much money. Even if you have 3 packages and 500 is your lowest package and they don't have that much, you can ask them, well, how much were you thinking? Right? And have them say a price. And actually, ideally, you'd have them probably say a price beforehand. That way you know which package ideally to pitch them on. But let's say they didn't do that and they're like, I have maybe $200 a month. I don't even know if I could do that. Then you can go, all right, well, I think normally I wouldn't do this. This would be sort of a special package. But if you're totally cool with giving me an amazing testimonial and then maybe ramping up after I do $200 worth of work and it starts to work for you and you see that it's working, then we can maybe ramp up afterwards. Like really try and hone in on, yes, my services are totally worth it and you probably should be paying more later on. But for now, what we'll do is we'll do only the 2 things that I think are the most important right this minute, so that way you get started. Does that make sense, Heather, too?
Yeah, and you know what? That's actually kind of similar to what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed just an increase in my confidence level.
Oh, yeah.
Like with the freelance websites that I get jobs from, as I was telling Lisa a couple weeks ago, there are people on there who will work for pretty much like $5 an hour because they're just starting out. And so it kind of puts me at a disadvantage because I absolutely know for certain that I'm not going to work for that. I have 20 years of experience. I'm not going to work for $5 an hour. There's people in there who will pay like a penny a word, so when you write a 400 word article, it doesn't amount to anything. So I've noticed that just with these freelance websites, I'm at the point now where I don't budge. This is my price. If you want to hire me, fine. If not, then, I just kind of wonder about the quality of the work that you're going to be getting for $5 an hour.
Exactly.
So, obviously I don't have that level of confidence right now with marketing to physicians or, selling my services to physicians because I've not done this before. But I just noticed like an increase once you start doing it and you're doing a good job and I've got clients coming back to me repeatedly for, I've got good testimonials. It really is something that isn't even hard to do. It's, it just becomes like, okay, I have this many years of experience. I'm going to, this is my price. If you can pay it, you can pay it. If not, then I'm sorry. But,
one of the
like you
tips
said,
that I'd mention though too in regards to that, because like you said, confidence, and this is for anyone that's listening, confidence is so huge. Because I remember being like, I charge this much money, and like nobody wants to pay somebody who's like, yeah, I totally charge that much money. Are you gonna pay it? You know what I mean? Like nobody's gonna do that. But yeah, go ahead.
It's just the confidence that you display. Your level of confidence. Like if I can go to somebody and say, I can pitch this to the media, I know this would make a good story. I know a reporter who would jump on this. I know I can get you in the newspaper or on TV. It's just this confidence that you exude that people just jump on, and it almost makes them want to pay the more money because they just know by looking at you, by talking to you that you can do this.
Well, and if you're the expert, and I think one of the things that my mentor told me that might be helpful, it sounds like you understand the process, but for anyone that's listening that maybe doesn't, or since you're not feeling as confident because you don't have the specific testimonials and all that fun stuff. When I first started, my mentor, so I was charging really cheap, right? And I had clients, and then I met my mentor who was like, you need to charge $150 an hour. And I was like, that is way more than I was charging. And at the time I was like, I don't think that I can say that with a straight face because I didn't feel like my services were worth it. And this was probably like 6 years ago. And that's not good, right? Like I would be like this. So what he told me, and this worked really well for me internally, is he goes, what you say is with full confidence, you could say $150 an hour or your money back. And the interesting thing is, especially for PR and for coaching, it's only my time, right? I had a little bit of expenses, but not really anything back then. It was only really my time. So if I wasn't fully 100% sure that I could do it, I just give their money back. And I would be happy to give their money back because I knew that I was doing the right thing. Instead of going, I really think that I can do this, and then feeling crappy when I sell them and not sure whether or not I can do it. So that really gave me permission, and nobody asked for their money back, by the way, thankfully, right? But it was so internal in my head that if I didn't feel that value was worth it, then I didn't want anyone to pay, which is good, right? Which is a lot of the problems that a lot of people have in the PR industry. We'll pay lots of money. Like I said before, I've spent over $5,000 on a PR person. Now, I think he was a scammer more than anything, but in the people that I've been chatting with, I didn't get anything. I didn't get anything from him, and he was guaranteeing placements and all this other stuff. And so it's very fluid and hard to get something like that because you don't know what's going to happen, unfortunately, right now.
Well, and that's why, like, I always tell people, I always preface whenever I'm meeting or whenever I was working full time in an office, I would always preface my meetings with, I'm not going to guarantee you anything. I can guarantee you that I will work hard. I can't guarantee you that you're going to get in the newspaper. I can't guarantee you that you're going to get any coverage at your event. Because it's all an unknown. I can guarantee you that if you pay $1,000, we can get an ad in the paper. But that's as far as I would go. So I'm always leery, I guess, about anybody, not just people in my field, but I'm always leery about people who make guarantees, who come and say, I guarantee you this is going to happen, because I sit there in the back of my mind, I think, really?
Yeah.
Like, how can you
not
guarantee?
give me my money back? No, I tried. No, he definitely did not. But what would be really interesting that I've never seen, and this is just an idea, you don't necessarily have to use it, but I've never seen any PR person ever go, I don't guarantee whether or not you get placement, but I'll give half your money back if you don't, or I'll do this if you don't. That would make me go, you really stand behind what you're doing, and if you can't do it, then I'll get something in return. Not necessarily even that I want all my money back, because I want to pay you for the work that you do, definitely.
Sure.
But it's so hard to pay for getting nothing. And I think that's what scares people from PR just in general. And so trying to figure out, and I think we didn't really talk about this too much, but figuring out what your unique selling proposition is, like why you have healthcare background, so having that niche is definitely helpful. But start thinking about your USP, that unique selling proposition that makes you different than every other PR marketing consultant that exists that's marketing to doctors right now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So did you have any questions too on the sales process? Because what we want to do and what we're going to have to do right now is guess. We don't have numbers for you. So what I want you to do though is start tracking. So figure out how many people you're talking to. And I would say try to talk to at least 5 prospects a week, depending on if it's a 2-hour week for your other thing or a 25-hour week, of course. But make the goal to shoot to talk to, not sell, just talk to 5 people a week. And that really adds up. So that way your goal of 1 client long term will definitely accumulate. So if you can't some weeks, you're a mom, I get it, but really shoot every single week for just talking to 5 prospects. Does that make sense?
Well, here's my question. Yeah. Because I'm going after probably the busiest population, doctors.
Yes.
Who, when I was even working with them full time and I was getting them regular media coverage and I was having reporters beating down their door, they were just infamously hard to track down. Surgeries run long, or they just get behind in paperwork. They just don't have time. So how do I get them? I mean, I know a face-to-face meeting is rarely ever going to happen. How can I approach them knowing that they're just jam-packed?
That's a really great question. So I would try and find one that's a friend of yours and ask them. Number one, because I can give you ideas, right? I can give you ideas where you're dropping off that marketing checklist and going, I just want to, 10 minutes over the phone to go over this with them or something. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Doctors usually don't go to networking events, but there's lots of different ways you can reach them. Once you reach them, you want to know what to do with that. So if you get them on the phone, what do I try and do? And so I would ask the doctors themselves. Don't try and make up what might work because you'll end up testing a whole bunch of stuff. I would just ask them, like, what would really, if you knew that this service could really, really help you, how could I even get in the door? How could I even get your time? That sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Okay. I mean, it could be as simple as like just, I'm due for my annual checkup at the PCP next month. I mean, it could be even as simple as just like chatting with her. And I mean, I know she's associated with the larger hospitals, so would not be a prospective client. But I mean, it would be something that I could just even start chatting with her about.
Definitely.
How
secretaries.
Like what are the best ways to get to, I mean, I know secretaries are like doctors' gatekeepers.
Yes, but you know what? Let me give you a tip on that though too, because secretaries. I mean, I have a foot injury, so I was just chatting with the doctor's secretary like 7 times today, and she's really sweet. And so the good thing is that if you go in not trying to sell anything, but just asking questions, go, you know what? It's funny. I'm a marketing consultant. I'm not trying to sell your doctor or anything, but I have some questions. I know how busy they are. Is there any better times? And I won't even try and sell your doctor. I'm just trying to think of like any ways that we can do. A lot of the times people are going to be really nice, especially if you've created that bonding and rapport ahead of time. So like you're joking around and it's funny and all that fun stuff. So that way you can just ask candid questions, and a lot of the times people will just tell you. And so getting market research that way will definitely help too. When you're having your kids' appointments with their doctor, you know, it's sort of kind of crazy in general, but you can start asking them just in general what you can do for that stuff, because it's really about research and trying to figure out what's going to work.
Sure. Okay.
Perfect.
And I can get you on a call with somebody to help you figure out that kind of stuff too. Just kind of what to say. Not that you need a script, but it's all going to be trial and error. So you're going to get on one call and you're going to be like, that didn't go well.
I've done that.
No.
I've done that too. So
well, I know that
you get on another one and it'll go well. So
if you're going to schmooze anybody in the doctor's office, it's got to be their secretary. So you got to do whatever it takes as long as you get the secretary on your side.
Yeah. And you know, we did some of that where we talked about kind of where you're going to find your clients, and there's other avenues too. Like you can go to women's events and they might have husbands that are physicians, and if you know, sort of building a relationship with some of them, then they'll know kind of your services, and it's sort of a mutual kind of thing. So there's little ways to think about it, but that you know, we'll work through that. Are there any action items for her that we haven't talked about in terms of her sales process? And some different, I know she needs to make 5 calls a week. If she can.
Prospects.
And prospect. And like I said, you're going to learn a lot through that.
Yeah.
Hopefully you won't get hung up on, but.
Well, one of the other tips that I can give you if you want an action item to go forth, well, we have a couple as of looking through all the stuff that you have, right? Talking to the doctors to find out what they want and the best things, because even that marketing checklist that I gave you, that might not even be exactly what they want. You want to give them what they want. So find out what it is that they want. So that's definitely number 1. Knowing that you're doing 5 calls every single week, you know, somehow getting a hold of these people, and like Lisa said, prospecting, maybe she can help you find a few more of those. But also do a sales call before your sales call, right? So husband, friend, whatever. When I was working with my mentor, he had printed out on a piece of paper in like grayscale, like what I should say, because I was so nervous of trying to figure it out. Now, you've been in business a long time, so this was quite a few years ago for me, so I was very nervous just in general, but I would still go through the process so it becomes more natural to you. The more we do it, the more natural it becomes, and that first one is going to be kind of awkward anyway, so try to do it with someone you know.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not a salesman. I fear all things sales.
Okay.
And so I am, just the thought. I mean, it was nice when I worked in an office and I had, you know, I was literally assigned to different departments. So they had to work with me. You know, they didn't have a choice. And so now that there is a choice, it's very intimidating and overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, and that's why relax into the process. The process works, right? And so once you know what they need and know what you can provide, the process works. And all you have to do is go knock on enough doors for the people that actually need it at this moment. And that makes sales a lot easier. Because I was just like you. I mean, seriously, I hated sales. I felt like a sleazy used car salesman. Like
exactly.
Well,
I know
that.
No.
It's just, you know, I know when people try and sell their stuff to me, you know, like I just get completely turned off by it.
Yep.
It's just, they could be the softest sell ever, but it's just deep down, I know that all they really want is for me to buy their product or, you know, for me to spend money that's ultimately going to benefit them. So I just have that in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we do, right? We put up a shield. And so what we want to do is never have that other person put up a shield. So the soft sell is because they don't know what you want. Most of the time, like especially at the very beginning when I started doing this, I wouldn't sell. I would go, I don't think you need me. Because you don't want to try selling someone that doesn't need you, or that doesn't want you.
And I would have more respect for somebody who did that.
Exactly.
Somebody who sat down and listened to what I was saying, and then at the end of it all saying, you know what, I think you have everything you need. I don't think that you need my services. I would have more respect for somebody who did that than for somebody who kept trying to pressure me and kept trying to think of new things that I need and why I need to try them.
I can do that too. No, let me see.
Yeah. I mean, just I am more likely to call somebody back who tells me flat out, I don't think I can help you.
Yes.
Than I will be to call somebody who keeps pressuring me, who keeps trying to get me to buy their things.
So that's who you are, right? And that's who I am. There's no way you're going to try and sell someone that doesn't want my stuff. And so just have that attitude. When you go into the sales call, just try and find out if it's a match. That's all you're doing.
Okay.
If it's not a match, then it's not a sale. And even if you have to talk to more people than normal, like if you did a hard sell, you could probably sell some more. I'm not into that. Like, I don't want to feel crappy when I leave. So I don't do that. When I did Kirby vacuum cleaners, right, I was 17 years old, would go into people's houses, and you're supposed to give them a free carpet cleaning. So I'd give them a free carpet cleaning, and I hated the hard sell so much, I was like, and I'm not going to sell you. I'm supposed to call my person right now, so I'm going to call them and pretend that I'm selling to you and not. And so I couldn't do it. I couldn't I didn't think they needed a $1,700 vacuum. So I wasn't going to try and sell them a $1,700. If, maybe they need a $100 vacuum. I could have sold that, I think. But I could never feel really good about selling, like leaving and selling them that. Now, I know personally I can help people make more money. Like, I'm a business coach. I can help people make more money. And I'm really confident that I can. And if I wasn't, I could still have the money back guarantee. But in general, I'm so confident in that. I know that if it's a good match, it's going to be a good match. And if for any reason along the process it's not, I'll say, all right, we should not do this anymore. Then I can feel really good about no matter who I sell. Because otherwise, you get the icky feeling, and I'm not into that. And I don't think you are either. And most moms aren't. We're here to help people, not to sell people so we have more money in our pocket. That's not what it's about.
Well, and I think, too, and it's so true in PR where, if a story that I think might make a big impact in the press ends up not because there's breaking news or something, the royal family just had a baby and that takes precedent over everything else. I feel crappy taking somebody's money and not being able to deliver what I said I would deliver. So I don't, that's why I always go in saying, I'm not going to guarantee you anything. If you want a website, if you want newsletters or brochures, I can do that. But, to get you more publicity, to get you more patients, all I can do is tell you that I will try. And I'm not going to guarantee you that you're going to get front page of the big Pittsburgh paper. Because I would feel really bad, A, making that guarantee and not being able to follow through with it, but B, taking their money. Two, I would feel like a sleazy
used car salesman. Exactly.
And I can't do that.
I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000%, definitely. It's going to be hard for you to get over that hurdle for selling if you can't guarantee anything. Not that we need guarantees specifically, but we just want to get something for our money. So if I were you, I would personally start thinking about what you can do to sort of give them back, like do an extra month for free if that doesn't hit or something. Okay. So that way they feel like it's okay. Because that's what people have pitched me PR stuff before too, and I don't usually sign up for it. I do a lot of my own PR stuff, but I don't sign up for it because I'm like, I'm about as good as you. I know a lot of contacts. I'm not sure me pitching the same thing will be about the same for me. If I had someone who was like, I'm going to work really hard for you, I can't guarantee you anything, but if I don't get like at least one placement for you this month, I'll give you an extra month because I only care that you get a placement because that's what I'm working for. And I can't guarantee it, but I'll take more of the risk so you don't have to. Then I'd be like, I love you. I love you. Thank you for shouldering a little bit of the risk. And then I'm going to tell everybody I know because I'm like, she's amazing. She's going to take on some of the risk of PR, which is a big problem. And therefore you get more clients. And yes, sometimes you're not going to get the story, but you shoulder a little bit of the risk. But thankfully, it's not that big of a deal, because right now you're going to try and get your one client or your two clients, but having longer term clients and having that sustainable income, giving away an extra month or something like that isn't going to be like
isn't a big deal
for you. Exactly.
Sure.
Okay. Does that make sense? Perfect. Yep. And I know we probably ran super long for everybody, but I hope you got a lot out of that, Heather.
I did, absolutely.
And does it seem achievable for you? What actions Jamie's set for you?
It does. It does. Like I said in the last call, they're manageable. They're, feasible. I'm not sure how the 5 prospecting calls a week is going to go, but I know, I can contact some of the people I used to work with, and like I said, I can use my annual PCP appointment as a prospecting appointment. And, use my kids' well checks as prospecting appointments. So everything now is going to be about prospecting, not necessarily about our health. our family's healthcare has now come second in line to my business.
That's awesome. And you're going to learn new things as you go, definitely.
Yeah. And
the next time that
go ahead.
The next time that one of my sons needs to go to the emergency room, I'm not going to think of it as an emergency room.
You're like, yes!
Going to fall. Exactly. You fell and cut your head open? All right.
Yes. The 3-year checkup. Isn't that coming up soon? Yeah.
You have 2 boys. You're going to be seeing lots of doctors.
Yeah, exactly. This is time for lots of prospecting. This is great.
Yes. Well, for anybody who's watching, just think about kind of what Heather's going through and anything that resonates with you. And I'll have some worksheets below so you can do that. But make 5 prospecting calls for yourself as well if you're where Heather's at. So just think about that, and we'll have some notes down below. Jamie, thank you so much again. This has been amazing. And Heather, thank you so much for kind of putting yourself out there and sharing your story with us. I mean, it's going to help a lot of people. And thank you for letting us see the insides of your business and kind of where you're going. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.